Hello, my friends in the South region of Brazil. I'm Steve Slavinsky, and this is Sutton SignWriting Technology. First, a little bit about me. I'm a sign language user, a friend of the deaf, and a signwriting evangelist. I first learned about signwriting in 2003. I instantly fell in love. Looking at the script, I understood it was vastly different than English. Rather than a series of letters one after the other, signwriting used two-dimensional space to show a relation between the symbols. Looking online, I found some older software called SignWriter DOS and SignWriter Java. Taking a look at these programs, I realized they had a custom data format that I didn't understand and I couldn't use. Continuing to look online, I found Valerie Sutton's symbol bank and a huge collection of ping images in a folder. Using what I found, I started making some useful tools and putting them online. In 2004, Valerie Sutton saw my work online and she reached out. Soon after, I was working with Valerie Sutton in signwriting on a full-time basis. Over the next 15 years, we collaborated to bring signwriting to the internet at large and to the world. We made tremendous progress through the development of SignPuddle and related technologies, resulting in the Sutton SignWriting standards of 2010, 2012, and 2017. For the past 2 years, I've continued my work with signwriting on a part-time basis. I still meet weekly with Val and really enjoy our conversations. I'm currently the system administrator of SignWriting.org and the associated websites. I'm also the author of the Sutton SignWriting packages available on NPM. I have a few objectives with this presentation. First, I'd like to encourage the use of signwriting. It's an amazing script, it's a great technology, it's really helpful. Next, I'd like to discuss language types and encoding. And lastly, I'd like to show you our progress and discuss the future. 3 truths serve as a justification for this presentation. First, humans are creatures of language. Second, signwriting is used to write sign language. And third, people are using our data standards and tools. The general basis of this research is that writing is over 6,000 years old. In Western literature, Homer, the Iliad, is about 3,000 years old. Initially, all of this writing had to be copied by hand. Publishing efforts began in about the 700s AD. For a book, an entire page of the book would be carved, pressed in ink, and then pressed onto the paper. Movable type began in about 1030. Rather than an entire page being carved, individual words would be carved, and these movable type would be combined to form the page. For encoding of language, that began with Morse code in about 1837 AD. Every letter of the English alphabet could be a combination of dots and dashes. Well, in 1964, ASCII was released. Made for computers, all the letters of the English alphabet could be represented by ones and zeros. In 1987, Unicode was released, and rather than just focusing on English, Unicode focused on all of the world's writing systems. The specific basis of this research is signwriting specific. Signwriting began in 1974. Publishing efforts began in 1981 with the signwriting newsletter that involved hand tracing, stencils, and wax transfers. Computer encoding of signwriting began in 1986. My involvement began in 2004. For our standards, we have the International Signwriting Alphabet 2010, which is our latest symbol set. We also have our 2 character encodings of formal signwriting in ASCII, FSW, released in 2012. We also have our experimental signwriting in Unicode SWU, released in 2017. Humans are creatures of language. When we're exposed to language, our brain will rewire itself so that we can comprehend and produce that language. In general, there are 3 types of language. There's sign language, spoken language, and written language. For both the sign language and the written language, our eyes and our visual cortex will be reprogrammed so that we can comprehend the language, and our eyes will be wired to the language center of our brain. Spoken language we experience through our ears, and our auditory cortex will be reprogrammed so that we can understand language. Then our ears will be wired with the language center of our brains. There are 4 types of encoding for written language. There's the 0-dimensional point, the 1-dimensional line, the 2-dimensional plane, and morphing. In general, Chinese can be thought of as a point encoding. A word in Chinese is written as a logogram, and that logogram is encoded as a single code point on the computer. English can be thought of as a line encoding. A word in English is a string of characters, such as the word cat is the letters C followed by A followed by T. SignWriting is a plane encoding. To write a sign in SignWriting, we have a 2-dimensional cluster of symbols. The last type of encoding is morphing, and this can be more unpredictable. To understand the exact shape or the exact meaning of a character, you need to take it in context of the other characters that are used within that word. The methodology of this research can be summed up in a few simple sentences. First, I believe in Valerie Sutton and her vision. Second, I use what's available and what works. Third, I create complexity and then simplify. Throughout this whole process of me working with SignWriting, I've always had the idea that it was my job to empower the crowd and enrich free culture. For that purpose, all of our tools are free to use, and people have created some amazing things. If you'd like to review this research, there are several resources you can take a look at. First is our standards document called Draft Slavinsky Formal SignWriting. Second, you can look at SignMaker and SignPuddle 2. Lastly, if you want to review this research, I suggest checking out our SignWriting characters, our fonts, and our packages. If you'd like to review the technical specifications for this research, please review Draft Slavinsky Formal SignWriting. I just released revision 08. This document discusses Sutton SignWriting, formal SignWriting, technology integration, transformations. I discuss the Unicode considerations. I have a brief history of SignWriting and also links for SignWriting general interest. When discussing the formal SignWriting itself, I talk about the design principles, the characters that we have, the building blocks, our 2-part word of time and space, our styling string for rich text of size, color, and padding, and we also have our query language for searching. The building blocks of formal SignWriting can be understood through regular expressions, token patterns, symbols, and numbers. SignMaker is a great resource to review to understand symbol organization, sign construction, searching, sorting, and styling. You can find it on signbank.org, and the source is on GitHub. Let's open up SignMaker on SignBank and take a look. If we scroll down on the landing page, we can find the list of flags, and I'm going to open up the ASL dictionary for the US. SignMaker has 3 main parts. We have the dictionary on the left, sign editing in the middle, and our symbol palette on the right. Symbol palette, to use it, we can click on the symbols to find more symbols underneath. And we have our top level buttons of where we can mirror and go to the previous or go to the top. To write with our symbols, all we have to do is take our symbols and drag them into the sign box. Once the symbols are in the sign box, we can select them, turn light blue, and we can rotate, or we can change the fill. This is right here the visual for the sign. It is the spatial sign box. We also have something called the temporal prefix. This is the other part of our sign word. And for that, we have a 1-dimensional list of symbols, and this is used for sorting. For our dictionary, if we want to load any of the signs that are already here, we can just click on that sign, and you'll notice 2 things. First of all, the sign was loaded here in the middle with our 2-dimensional arrangement, But also we have our one-dimensional arrangement here, and this is used for sorting. And this is written by the person that writes the sign. When the signs have a sign spelling sequence or the temporal prefix, when we scroll through our dictionary, we can see that it is sorted. You can click on any signs again and you can see exactly how it is sorted. With SignMaker, there are two ways to search. Let's go ahead and clear all for our sign. Let's say we want to find a sign that has this hand shape. Drag that into the sign box. We go to the search and we can find signs that have the same symbol at that location, the same base symbol, or the same base symbol at that location. Let's look at the same symbol. If you notice, all of these signs have the same symbol that we're looking for. It's the same rotation, the same fill. If we search instead for base symbol, we find a lot more, and we can see that it has the same hand shape, but it may be a different fill, and it may be a different rotation. Another way to search with SignMaker is something called the click search. At the top of the symbol palette, go ahead and click on click search, and we'll just clear all. So if we wanted to find, let's say, the 5 hand, and we wanted this specific 5 hand. Once we clicked on it the second time, it would show all the signs that had that 5 hand. Let's say we also wanted one that had the contact star, and definitely a single contact. As you can see, all of our signs here have the 5 hand shape and the star. Let's say we also wanted some directional movement, a long directional movement. Now we can see that all of our signs have the 5 hand shape, the contact star, and the long movement. Next up for review, SignPuddle 2. SignPuddle 2 was my development playground where I could test data formats and add new features. Inevitably, as I was adding new features, things would start getting too complex. When that happened, I would simplify my data format, I would refactor the code, and then I could add more features using a more simplified base. If you look at the code for SignPuddle 2 on GitHub, you'll notice the multiple levels of technology that are overlaid one on another. Eventually with SignPuddle, I realized that I would need to extract all the smarts into external packages, and I will go over that with the SignWriting characters, the fonts, and our NPM packages. If we open signbank.org and visit SignPuddle online, we can scroll down to find our flag selection. I'm going to pick the US, and then I'm going to click the ASL dictionary. SignPuddle 2 has features and functions not available anywhere else. One of my favorite is the print to PDF. Let's go to search by sign and type in hello. We see the results for all the dictionary entries that have been entered with hello. What I'd like to do is print this search to PDF. We have a couple options here at the top. We can view by spoken word, or we can view by SignWriting. For select, we can select all of them, which they're all highlighted, or we can select none of them, and they all become disabled. We can click to remove or to add, so whatever signs we want to be printed, we would highlight and make sure that they were available. Now for the order, we can drag to reorder, or we can click a randomize. We can sort by spoken word, or we can sort by SignWriting. Now down here in the layout, we have 3 columns. We're going to do spoken word, we're going to do SignWriting, and we're going to do an empty field. We can pick our format of US letter or A4. We can do portrait or landscape, and we can print to PDF. Now that the PDF is there and available, we can open it up, and we can see we can have our spoken word, we can have our SignWriting, and we have our empty column. Reviewing our data formats, we have 2 equivalent character sets. We have formal SignWriting in ASCII, FSW. We have SignWriting in Unicode, SWU. These character sets both represent the same information, and there is an easy conversion between these 2 formats. If we open the FSW demo page, we can see two parts to the screen immediately. Top section, we have a text area with our FSW code inside. Below, we have our SVG and HTML, which shows the visual representation of our SignWriting. At the top, there's a couple buttons. We can change some light mode to dark mode with our CSS. And we can also animate, which takes our formal SignWriting and ASCII strings and outputs them one character at a time, and you can see our output being built in real time. We can also set the SWU characters. That will take our FSW characters and convert them into our other character set. Now with this, we have the same style where we can go back and forth, and we can also animate. And with the animate, you can see that our output is being built one character at a time, and we still get the output that we got from the FSW. We have three production fonts. We have the Sutton SignWriting Line font and the Sutton SignWriting Fill font. These two fonts are useful for SVG and can be used with FSW or SWU characters. We also have the Sutton SignWriting 1D font. This font is specific for SignWriting in Unicode SWU characters. For web and app development, we have some new packages available on NPM. You can find the Sutton SignWriting Core, the Sutton SignWriting Font TTF, and the Sutton SignWriting SGNW components. You can find these all on GitHub. You can go to Gitter for online developer discussion, and you can also check out the SignWriting stream on YouTube where we review the packages and explain how to use them. The first package you're going to want to review is the Sutton SignWriting Core. This package contains functions for handling formal SignWriting in ASCII FSW characters and SignWriting in Unicode SWU characters. We also have modules for searching, for style, and for conversion. If we open up the documentation for the Sutton SignWriting Core package, we'll notice a few things. Here on top we have a few buttons. One is we can join our developer chat on Gitter. Next, we can see that on NPM we have version 1.3 deployed. We can also see that the Sutton SignWriting Core package has 575 downloads a month. If we scroll down the documentation, we can find some useful links. It will tell you about the types of files. We have two different types of installation. We can download and install with NPM, or there is a developer installation where we can download from GitHub and install all the developer dependencies. When we're using the core, we can either use it in Node or we can use it in the browser. We also have some SignWriting general interest links. Below that, we have all the functions that we can call. You can either scroll down to find your function, or you can go here on the left. I want to look at FSW parse sign. And it will bring me right to that function. It will tell me what the function does. It will tell me what the function takes and what the function returns, along with an example function call. Here we have a FSW parse sign, and here is the FSW string that we're giving it. That function will return an object, and here's the object that it will return. We can keep scrolling down and we can look at that same function but for SWU, the SWU parse sign. Again, it tells us about the function and it gives us our example. SWU parse sign, and here is our SignWriting in Unicode SWU string. When we parse that, we get our object returned, and we can use this object in our programming. There's FSW query, SW query, we have style functions, and we also have convert. The convert library is for converting from formal SignWriting in ASCII FSW to SignWriting in Unicode SWU. Again, all the functions are documented with example calls. The second package you'll want to review is the Sutton SignWriting Font TTF package. With this, we can use the Sutton SignWriting Line and the Sutton SignWriting Fill font to create ping and SVG images in the browser. This package will work whether or not the end user has the font installed on their system. If we open up the documentation for the Sutton SignWriting Font TTF package, we'll notice it looks very similar to the Sutton SignWriting Core package documentation. We have our link to developer chat, we have our link to the NPM version that is published, and we also have how many downloads per month this package has received. If you scroll down, you'll notice the same useful links, installation instructions, and also how to use it as a module or in the browser. There's a configuration step for VS Code if you want to use SignWriting in Unicode SWU, general interest, and again, all of our function calls with definitions, parameters, and examples. The last package to review is the Sutton SignWriting SGNW components. These are web components. They add new elements that you can use in templates and JSX and HTML. To use the web components, you need to add a script tag and a CSS link tag. These can be added to any page, and once they are, you can use the new elements in standard HTML. If we open up the documentation for the Sutton SignWriting SGNW package, we can see very similar things. We have our developer chat link, we have the NPM version that has been published, and we also have how many downloads per month. Scrolling down, you'll find some useful links, and then how to use the components. Any web page, you don't need to download anything. You can just put a script tag and a link tag, and then you can start using the components immediately. Alternatively, you can do an npm install, and that can work for node modules or an stencil starter app. The components that we have available, the first is the SGNW symbol. It's just a basic symbol, and to use it, here's the HTML that you would add. Notice our SGNW symbol. We tell it what symbol we're passing it, and then we close our tag. Alternatively, we can use the symbol attribute, and rather than putting that symbol inside of our tag, we can just put it as an attribute to that tag. Looking at the other examples, notice that we inherit size and color. We can do that with a class, we can do that with an inline style, and we even have a style override where we can say, hey, use this style string. We have another component for SGNW sign. Scrolling down, you can see we have an FSW symbol, so formal sign writing in ASCII. Here's what we want to display, and again, we can use the symbol attribute instead. Inherits our colors and sizes, and we also have the FSW sign component. I'm currently working on the vertical paragraph, hoping to have that available soon. That's going to make writing literature online a lot easier. The ultimate goal of sign writing is the creation of real literature. People can do that today with SignPuddle 2, and for the future, I'm working on two different options. One is I will be expanding the SignWriting web components to include vertical paragraphs and SignMaker components. Also for the future, we have the Sutton SignWriting 2D font, which will use the universal shaping engine and be available on all platforms. Sutton SignWriting was designed to work with standard web technologies. We use JavaScript, regular expressions, cascading style sheets, scalar vector graphics, and true type fonts. We work in the various browsers, and we work in the various operating systems. To understand the utility of our character sets, we need to look at sizes. Let's say a server was sending us a page of SignWriting text, and it sent it in preprocessed SVG. That page would be about 1 megabyte in size. If we sent that same text as SignWriting in Unicode SWU characters, it would only be about 60K, about 15 times smaller. If we sent that same text as formal SignWriting in ASCII FSW characters, that would only be 30K, 30 times smaller than the SVG. In conclusion, I just wanted to say that SignWriting makes literacy possible. Over the years, we've made tremendous progress together, and there is more work to be done, and I'm really excited for the future. What are the results of this research? Well, when I became involved with SignWriting, it was already firmly established. I hope that my involvement has made it easier for others to get involved and create. Right now, we have a worldwide movement of signwriters. We have multi-generational writers, people that learned it as kids and are teaching kids today. I believe we have a firm foundation for future growth. It's an exciting time. If you'd like to check out a few references, I suggest reading an article called Inside the Letterbox: How Literacy Transformed the Human Brain. Even though this isn't SignWriting specific, it is about writing, and that's SignWriting. If you want to see more SignWriting specific references, check out the reference section for Draft Slavinsky Formal SignWriting. If you open up Draft Slavinsky Formal SignWriting and look at the reference section, you'll find lots of great links. I would suggest looking through the list and opening any that look interesting. In particular, you will probably want to read about the Sutton SignWriting Standard of 2010, 2012, and 2017. The Standard of 2010 is the International SignWriting Alphabet 2010. This is our symbol set that has been stable since its initial release. You can read about the background of the symbol set, and you can also check out some excellent resources. The Standard of 2012 is Formal SignWriting in ASCII, FSW. It was released in January of 2012 and has been stable since its initial release. Again, you can read about the background of where it came from. You can also view some great resources about FSW. The Standard of 2017, well, that's SignWriting in Unicode SWU. With that, characters are used to name signs and fonts are used to view signs. Again, you can read about the character set, you can read about the background where it came from, and you can view some great resources. When we keep going through the references, we'll find another interesting section down here, which is the two-dimensional font prototype. You can view the presentation that I did about that font prototype a few years ago. I also have a two-dimensional font project that I will be working on hopefully in the future, and that will take the SignWriting in Unicode characters, SWU, and I will use the Universal Shaping Engine to properly lay out our SignWriting text. If you keep scrolling down, you'll find a huge selection of Unicode references. One that is very interesting you should read is the Chinese characters are futuristic and the alphabet is old news. That's a really interesting article because it talks how the QWERTY keyboard was once the envy of the world, but not anymore. It talks about the difficulty that Chinese had with being encoded on computers. It said in the beginning it was really awkward to type with Chinese. Well, the thing is, its awkward history with the telegraph and the typewriter, it primed the Chinese speakers to take full advantage of software when it came along, to the point where it's now faster to input Chinese than English. I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to the Sutton SignWriting technology. It's an exciting time for SignWriting with lots of interesting projects and new possibilities. I look forward to all of your great achievements in the South region of Brazil, in all of Brazil, in the world. I hope you'll join us, you'll learn to read, learn to write, and teach future generations. Thanks for watching.